Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Liddy and today we're going to be going over everything I read in November. I read quite a lot this month actually. I managed to finish around 70 volumes of manga and read around 24 series in total. So yeah, I've got a lot to share with you and a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. So one of the first things I read this month was Kaiju number 8. Kaiju number 8 is about a man in his 30s called Kafka, and he's part of a cleanup crew that helps clean up kaiju, which is type of monsters after they've been taken care of and kind of slaughtered. However, his dream with his childhood friend Mina has always been to be on the Japanese Defense Force, which basically, fights against these type of kaiju. He immediately gets another chance at this dream, but unexpected things happen to him that could cost his life if it was found out. And the story kind of goes from there, in which he becomes part of the Japanese Defense Force. And yeah, I really like this shonen series. The fight scenes are really amazing. I really love the humor and the characters are really great. I like how this focuses on a character that is in their 30s, which is quite rare in terms of shonen. I feel like a lot of shonen protagonists are quite young. The art is really good and the fight scenes, as I said, are very detailed and really good. This volume in particularly ended off on a cliffhanger, so I'm super excited for the next release, and it is probably one of my favorite ongoing shonen manga series at the moment, and I highly recommend. It also doesn't have any fan service, which for me is a bonus because I'm not a super big fan of like ecchi or like fan service, so I really enjoy that element. And the character designs are really cool, and the characters as well are really likable. This guy Hoshino is a really interesting character. He kind of reminds me of Levi from Attack on Titan in the way he fights, and it's just a really cool series. I definitely recommend you to check it out if you haven't already. And the female character Mina is really cool as well. But that's Kaiju number 8. The next series I read was How Do We Relationship Volume 7. So this one is a new release, and I've talked about this quite a lot before, as well as in my October reading wrap up. But I pretty much read this as soon as I got it, and I found it really cute. I am continuing to enjoy this series a lot, and the new relationships that are developing in these later volumes. We got introduced to 2 new characters, Tamaki and Yuria, and I really like this character. As I said before, she's really, really sweet. And for those who don't know about this series, it is a Yuri manga series that depicts a very real and raw relationship between 2 college students who end up dating purely because they find out that they are both interested in women rather than boys. So it's a story of them getting to know each other as a couple before actually, realizing they like each other romantically. There's a lot of different emotions that are tackled in this story, as well as obstacles that come with their differing personalities and sexual needs, as well as internalized insecurities that boil down, that kind of result in very rocky relationship dynamics. This one is also a longer Yuri series, which I find quite rare. I haven't really found a Yuri series that is this long. There is currently 10 volumes so far out in Japan, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking for a Yuri manga series to try out that is more on the serious and realistic side. So I gave this a 7 out of 10, and I forgot to rate Kaiju, but Kaiju is definitely like an 8 out of 10 for me so far. But that's How Do You Relationship by Tamiful. And then the next manga I read was volume 2, and volume 3 of A Sign of Affection. So I know a lot of people have been talking about this one, and I also have been reading it, and I have been really enjoying it. This series continues to be really super sweet and super cute, and I really love Yuki, this character, and Itsuomi's relationship dynamic and the way they really respect each other a lot. I definitely love Yuki as a character a lot more than Itsuomi's character at the moment. I just find her like super endearing, and she really wears her heart on her sleeve and isn't afraid to express her feelings. I am starting to have a tiny bit of second lead syndrome for Yuki's childhood friend Oishi. I really love the fact that he learnt sign language and cares for her in his own manner, in terms of he's kind of brute like, but yeah, I really like the way he kind of expresses himself and his care. But yeah, I think it's also because I have a very soft spot for childhood friends to lovers type tropes, so I'm kind of in that at the moment. But the art style is really stunning. If you guys don't know about A Sign of Affection, it is a really popular shoujo manga series at the moment. It's probably one of the most popular, and it's about a deaf girl called Yuki who meets a guy on the train, Itsuomi, due to some kind of circumstances, and she finds out he is friends with someone that her friend knows, and they start to get to know each other better. And Itsuomi is quite a well-traveled person who likes exploring new countries and has an interest in languages, so he takes kind of a special interest in Yuki due to her ability in sign language and communicating through sign. So their kind of relationship builds over that, and yeah, it's just really, it's quite quiet and very sweet, and I really like this series. Yeah, so this is the second male lead. I don't actually know if he becomes in a love triangle with them, but yeah, but I really like this character. Yeah, it's really sweet so far, and I definitely recommend this if you're looking for a sweet shoujo manga romance story. And I think this won like an award or something for like best shoujo of the year. But yeah, I gave this an 8 out of 10 and I really enjoyed it. The next story I read is Young Ladies Don't Play Fighting Games. So this revolves around an all-girls academy that basically breeds elegant and refined ladies, and it focuses on this character Aya, well, not this character but another character Aya, who gets into this prestigious school on a scholarship and hopes to become refined and ladylike. So it's this character here. However, she runs into the idol of the student body, Shiryu, who's this, and she catches her secretly playing fighting games after hours and pretty much shouting obscenities to her opponents, and she gets caught doing that, and Aya approaches her and they kind of start a bond over this revelation, because Aya also used to be a avid gamer as well. I feel like this gives hints to a blossoming romance between these two girls, and I really enjoyed it. I found it super relatable as well, as because I am a avid gamer, so the gaming languages and references were pretty spot on. I think if you're not a gamer, you'd find it a bit confusing and the lingo would probably pretty much go over your head, but if you enjoy gaming, I think you'll enjoy this fun little series. A really big chunky one that I read in November was Wolf Children. So this is, I don't know if the manga came out first or the anime came out first, but I've watched the anime and really enjoyed it, and I did a buddy read on this with some people in the Discord, and yeah, it was really fun. This anime is probably one of my favorites, so I really wanted to read this in its manga format, and I've had this on my shelf for quite a few years. It was gifted to me by a friend of mine, and this story is basically about Hana, this lady, she's a college student who falls in love with someone that can transform into a wolf. However, this is more of a story about their children, Ame and Yuki. So their love story pretty much is cut short when the father is killed whilst hunting for food. And it's a story about how the children who can transform into wolves start to grow and decide how they want to remain in society, kind of which sides of themselves do they want to manifest and which side do they want to abandon. It's quite a hard-hitting coming-of-age story, and as I said, I've watched the anime movie of this multiple times and absolutely love it. It actually makes me cry every time, and I really recommend to give the anime movie a watch if you're not into reading as much. But I definitely found this, even though it was quite chunky, there was a lot of like panels with no text, so it didn't take that much time to actually get through this at all. Yeah, so I think I do definitely enjoy the anime a bit more than the manga, because the storytelling in the anime movie is super good and it has a really great animation in conjunction with the super lovely original soundtrack. The anime definitely made me feel more emotions towards these characters, so I definitely enjoyed this a lot more. But yeah, this manga was really good and the drawings are really lovely as well. So if you're on the lookout for a nice one shot, I would definitely recommend this one and recommend watching the movie as well. So this is the only BL I read this month, and it was Yagi the Bookshop Goat by Fumi Furukawa, printed by Tokyo Pop. This one is a really cute little one shot set in a anthropomorphic society about this goat Yagi, and he actually loves to eat paper, but he has also a dream of working at a bookshop, and obviously bookshop owners don't want him in their shop because he, eats all the books. So no one wants to hire him because of his book eating habits, but he actually lands a bookstore job in an area that is full of carnivores, and the person who hired him is this guy. He is an okami, which is like a wolf, and it's kind of all the shenanigans that happen whilst working there, and also how they get closer and a romance starts to blossom. This was really cute, but in my opinion it felt a little flat in terms of the story. There wasn't that much depth to the story in my opinion, and this is just a spoiler warning here. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can stop watching or skip to the next part, but they end up throwing a kind of these two have met in the past type storyline. And also something I didn't know about this was it is an age gap, because they had met before when Yagi was a kid and the bookshop keeper was a lot older, so that kind of threw me off a little. And it is also quite explicit, which I felt wasn't super necessary considering how cutesy the art style is and kind of how young the character looks. Yeah, so yeah, it kind of threw me off a little bit. I don't think the explicit scenes were necessary, but yeah, I don't know. I wasn't super impressed. I thought it was cute, but that was pretty much it. I definitely probably wouldn't pick this up again or reread it, so I gave this a 5 out of 10 rating. But yeah, I would recommend reading a few chapters online to see if you actually enjoy it and then purchase it, because Tokyo Pop titles aren't very cheap, so I wouldn't go all in on these volumes. But yeah, the next book I read was the first omnibus of the complete collection of Orange by Ichiko Takano. This one is also a lot older in terms of when it was released. I think it was quite a few years ago now that this has been released, and when it was, pretty much everyone, even people on booktube who don't read manga, were talking about this. And I actually read this at the time, probably back in 2016, but I completely forgot about the story and decided to do a reread because some people in the Discord wanted to read it for the first time. But this kind of follows Naho, which is this girl during her high school years where she receives a letter from herself 10 years into the future warning her about this new transfer student Kakeru and to watch over him so that they can save him from a terrible future. The letter that she receives kind of retells each day and advice on things to do differently to ensure that they can save him. And it kind of follows that story in trying to save Kakeru from his kind of doomed fate that, Naho finds out happens later on. And this, as I said, was a reread for me, and I think it was still good. I did find Naho a tiny bit frustrating, mainly with how naive and clueless she was, as well as how timid she is. I feel like I'm quite an expressive person, so I find it quite hard to relate to timid characters in the stories, and mostly end up getting a little frustrated with them. I did enjoy the first omnibus, but I still haven't been pulled to finish the series, which is kind of what happened the first time I read it, and I'm not really sure why, but I'm hoping this time I can continue it before I forget everything that happened. But I know this is a very well-loved series, so I need to finish it soon, but I would give this first omnibus volume around a 6 out of 10. And another manga series that I started was The White Cat's Revenge, plotted from the Dragon King's lap. So this is an isekai story, and it's about a girl named Ruri who gets transported into another world with her childhood friend Asahi. The childhood friend is, however, really obsessive and someone Ruri is not very fond of due to them constantly bringing misfortune into her life. So they eventually get separated in this world due to the kingdom they transported in initially, Nadasha, exiling her in secret without Asahi knowing, and due to the childhood friend's obsessive nature, she is basically manipulated into thinking that the neighboring kingdom, the land of the Dragon King, has actually kidnapped Ruri as an excuse for the palace nobles to initiate a war with the land of the Dragon King. Ruri is then thrust into trying to stop this war and the misunderstandings that has happened, but it obviously proves quite difficult because the childhood friend is very stubborn, and so this is the childhood friend Asahi. And this Ruri also comes into possession of a kind of mysterious bracelet that lets her transform into this white cat. And then she meets the Dragon King in this form, and they kind of form a bond, which ultimately looks kind of like a romance will ensue. I thought this was really fun and really cute. I can't wait for the Dragon King to actually find out that Ruri is not a cat and is actually a girl, and how that relationship will develop. As it's mostly Ruri starting to kind of fall for the Dragon King because he treats the cat so nicely, whereas the Dragon King pretty much only sees her in cat form and just bonds with the cat. But she also finds out that she is actually a beloved, which means that a lot of these like magical fairy creatures that creates magic are really fond of her. And it's about something about her aura, and I think that's why the childhood friend is so attached to Ruri, because she has kind of like a aura that attracts people. And so she has a lot of really strong magical abilities due to these fairies that are attracted to her. And so there's a lot going on there behind the scenes in which she's basically quite powerful, and the kingdom as well. So I'm intrigued to see what happens. It was pretty fun, actually, the first 3 volumes, and I really like the developing relationship, even though she is a cat when she is conversing with the king. But I'm enjoying this story so far, and we'll definitely continue when new volumes come out. I think the releases for this are really slow, so it's gonna be a while till I probably get more of these. But yeah, a solid 6.5 out of 10. I then read Frieren, and this follows a elven mage frieren who, with a group of adventurers, defeat the Demon King and have basically restored harmony to the world. Due to her elven ability, she lives a very, very long life, and as she continues to live, you see the people she once knew slowly start to leave the world, and this starts to make her question life and how little she knew about the friends she once traveled with all those years. So she feels a little bit of regret there. So later she takes on a favor of one of her old comrades to take on an apprentice called Fern, and it pretty much follows their story and events that occur along the way. So this is Fern and this is Frieren. Up until the end of this volume, the story has been quite slice of life and the journey has been quite quiet overall, and I really liked that about it. It was a like adventure fantasy, but it was pretty much like a slice of life adventure fantasy, and I really enjoyed that. However, it definitely takes a turn at the end of this volume, and we can start to see that some action is starting to brew and surface within the story, and we start to discover just how powerful Frieren is, considering she doesn't really flaunt her abilities and she seems a little bit, I guess, dopey in some ways. But yeah, I'm really excited to continue this series, and at the end of this volume there was quite a intriguing revelation, so I need to definitely continue this. I am really enjoying this story so far, and I really like traveling adventure stories in general and fantasy stories, so yeah, and it looks like people will start to tag along their journey slowly, which I also really like. I like it when like there's a cast or a band of characters that come together and travel and go on adventures. So yeah, enjoying this. This is probably a 7 out of 10 for now. And then I read another slice of life series, Futari Escape by Shoichi Taguchi, and this one is about two friends. One is jobless, this one, and one is a mangaka artist that is constantly getting pulled into escaping the realities of adult responsibilities by this girl. And it is quite episodic, and the art is really pretty as well, if you can see. Yeah, I really like the art. I think it's pretty relatable too, considering, you know, escaping responsibilities to do fun things sound pretty much right up my alley. There is also elements of a romance starting to blossom between these two friends, and it's just a super really fluffy, lighthearted Yuri manga read, and the art style is really cute. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, and even though it doesn't have much depth, it's just, you know, a slice of life. It is a kind of feel-good series that I think people will enjoy. If there is a romance blossoming in this, then I'm definitely up to exploring that. Yeah, I gave this a 7 out of 10. And the next read I have is Tokyo Aliens by Naol. And this one was purely a cover buy, and I was actually really pleasantly surprised. The art in this is really stunning. Let me quickly show you some panels, because like that looks really cool. And there's a character in here which I think is really handsome. Let me find him. This guy. He is super handsome, don't you think? I don't know why. Characters with an eye patch. But yeah, this one is basically a story about a main character, Akira. This guy. He finds out that aliens actually exist, and they take on human form and live in human society as normal people, and they usually need a permit to stay on this earth. There's like, sometimes they also wreak havoc, and he finds out there's actually an organization that controls these aliens and monitors their stay here on Earth, and he kind of gets pulled into that world on a chance meeting due to some events that happen. And then he meets this fellow classmate who is also part of that organization, and that's kind of really where the story takes off. I was super surprised and enjoyed this first volume, and definitely will be continuing the story for sure. and the art style is really good, so I am definitely gonna continue this. And I liked the ending as well, and it did seem like at the end the main character Akira definitely has some sort of, you know, ability that will make him useful to this organization, which kind of follows a, you know, generic shonen trope, which is, you know, there is a main character with a interesting or overpowered ability. So yeah, excited to try that. And I really liked at the end that the mangaka was like, some fan service for you for making it to the end. She knows her readers for sure. But yeah, enjoyed this and excited to continue it. The covers for these are stunning. I'm really excited to get more of the covers, like the neon and the colors, and yeah, they really follow a nice cover, so I'm excited for that. And another isekai like story, I don't actually know if this is an isekai actually, this is more of like a time loop story, but this was really fun. I actually love this so much. This was probably one of my favorite reads of November, and this story is about a girl called Rish, and she gets her engagement to this prince revoked, and obviously she's disgraced by her family. She gets disowned, and she kind of has to find a way to fend for herself, which results in her becoming a highly regarded trader later on. And however, every time Rish turns 20, she actually dies and gets reincarnated to the day of her engagement being broken off. So she is constantly in like this time loop where, you know, when she gets her engagement called off, she constantly comes back to this moment in her life when she dies. And with each new life, she starts to learn new ways of living. So in one of her timelines, she is obviously a merchant, and then she gets reincarnated, and then she becomes an apothecary, and then the next life she becomes a maid, and then in the next life she becomes a soldier, and etc, etc. And then in her 7th life, she's trying to, you know, get on with her life, but she meets this crown prince, this guy of another kingdom, that offers her a proposal. And this is the very man that has been ending her life in every previous, you know, loop that she's been in. So every time she does die, it's at the hands of this man. So she takes it upon herself to accept this proposal, and this time round she is determined to live a long and lazy life through accepting this marriage and try to prevent her inevitable death at the hands of this person. So it kind of follows a similar trope in terms of like the villainess trope, which is, you know, going back, being reincarnated, and then trying to prevent their untimely and ultimate death by, you know, cozying up to, you know, the person who killed them or who had killed them in their past life. And it kind of follows that, but it's a little bit more unique in the way that I really like how strong the female character is. I think the fact that she kind of grows to enjoy each new life she has and tries to do things even better each time around is what I really admire about her. And she puts these skills to use in each life as well. So everything that she learns in all her life, she has the memories of, and she has the ability to do. So if she was a merchant before, she has all those skills, and if she was a soldier before, she can still fight really well in each of her lives that she goes through. So she's just really like talented overall in terms of at her 7th life, she obviously has all these years of, you know, learning new skills. And I think that's kind of what initially attracts the attention of this crown prince, due to some things that he sees her doing when she's trying to get on with her 7th life. And I'm super looking forward to how this relationship develops and where the direction of the story will go, because it's just been super fun and I really like the art style. There's one panel that I really enjoyed. Let me find it. So this is where she basically jumps off the building and she lands perfectly, obviously, because she has been trained before in combat and all this agility. So it's really funny, and the crown prince basically watches her do this without her knowing, and that's kind of when he was like, wow, you know, she's interesting, I want to get to know her. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I have volume 2 coming in the mail soon because I think it released in December, so I'm really excited to continue this series, and I would give this an 8 out of 10. And another series I read was Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible by Nene Yukimori, and this one is a Shonen Jump title, but it's actually a seinen that is printed in Shonen Jump. I'm not sure why, but yeah. This story is set in high school about a boy called Junta who is pretty much invisible to everyone, like the title kind of suggests, and he kind of feels like a side character, you know, no one ever notices him. He's not really a main character in a typical way. And one female classmate, Kubo, this girl, actually does notice him and starts making an effort to get closer to him. So she's like the only one who actually notices he exists and notices when he's away and not in class and stuff like that. And it is a really cute story. It's very lighthearted and fluffy. You can tell that Junta is constantly oblivious to Kubo's affections and is constantly like, why is she paying attention to me? And starts to wonder if Kubo will notice him more, and it's kind of developing from there. And there's a lot of blushing in this, and the male character looks like so dopey. He has like the funniest face. But yeah, it's kind of cute. There is a little bit of strange scenes, like just like scenes of her tights and like this. Like, I don't know, this is a bit unnecessary, but yeah, I think it's cute. I wouldn't say it's anything groundbreaking for me, but it is a lighthearted read, and I picked up volumes 3 and 4, so I will continue it. Because it is a Shonen Jump title, it is quite cheap to get for 3 for 2, so I'm not averse to continuing it. But yeah, I don't know if I will fully collect it at all, but it's been cute so far. So yeah, I recommend it if you want something light and fluffy. And a series that I talked about in my previous October reading long, which I will obviously link here, but I mentioned this in my previous wrap up of how much I actually enjoyed this series. However, after further reading, I felt it got more ridiculous as the volumes went on, so I actually have ended up dropping this series. But yeah, this is a gender bender vampire romance story with kind of all the typical shoujo tropes that you could possibly think of, and it just gets really strange and super dramatic, so I decided to not continue with the story anymore. It's just, I don't know, the art is cute, but it's not anything super amazing in my opinion. I feel like it's very typical shoujo-esque style with lots of blushing, and the love triangle is a little silly, and the fact that the guys cannot tell that she is a girl is kind of crazy, considering like this kind of scene. I don't know, it's a bit weird. And yeah, later there is things about like fate and stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I think I know where this is going. And she even like wears girls' clothing and they still don't realize that she's a girl, so I'm a bit, yeah, it just is a little silly, so I am not continuing this at the moment. So I kind of gave this volume like a 3 out of 10. It's a little bit ridiculous, so it kind of definitely jumped from my initial review of this story. And yeah, but if you're looking for some vampire romance that you don't take too seriously, then I would recommend it, I guess. And another one that I started was ex-yakuza and stray kitten. This one is about this yakuza named Jin. He finds a stray kitten called Sabu out in the cold and adopts him into his home. We follow Sabu's kind of internal monologue as he pretty much continues to freak out about this yakuza and constantly fantasizes about all the terrible things that Jin will do to him, when all Jin really wants to do is take care of him, because Jin really likes animals. So like, this is how the kitten sees Jin, but he's pretty much a big softie and he just wants to take care of the cat. But this is kind of the cat just like constantly freaking out. But yeah, I found the kitten being constantly scared got a little bit tiring. Considering Jin was being so caring and constantly treated Sabu well, we continuously each day followed this monologue of Sabu being like, "Ooh, big scary yakuza, he's gonna kill me, I need to escape." So it got a little bit repetitive. It is quite cute though, so I'm hoping the story does pick up in the next volume where they pretty much just have like cute adventures together rather than Sabu constantly being frightened and kind of plotting his escape. Like, he just looks ridiculous, this kid. But yeah, I think if it takes a turn in the story and stops being so, "Oh, I'm so scared of this person who took me in and is making me all warm and stuff," then I think I will enjoy it a bit more. But if it continues in this manner, then I probably won't be able to continue it because it just gets a little bit repetitive. But yeah, a solid 6 out of 10 for now. And then I read volume 1 of Banana Fish, and I've talked about this as well briefly in some of my hauls when I purchased them. But this manga is set in the 1980s of New York about a boy named Ash who is part of a gang, and he's pretty much a gang leader. But his older brother Griffin is a war veteran and gets put in a vegetative state due to an incident that happens during one of the wars, where he basically fired at his own comrades, uttering the words "banana fish." Ash is on a mission to investigate the mysteries behind banana fish and kind of discover the truths that lie behind this threat. And he meets a Japanese photographer, Eiji, along the way, and I think they pretty much become comrades in uncovering the secrets behind this so-called banana fish. And the first volume I found was very dense, and it took me quite a bit to get into the meat of the story, as there is a lot of dialogue, and the way the pages are laid out, as you can see, is quite compact. You know, there's a lot of little scenes and lots of dialogue in every panel. And yeah, so I'm definitely intrigued by the story, and considering how well loved and praised this story is, I definitely want to keep reading. But I think you definitely have to be in the right mood to read this series due to its heavy topics. But I am hoping to continue this soon, and hopefully the story starts to kind of pick up where I can't put it down. But it definitely is a hard one to binge read, in my opinion, due to the topics and how dense the volumes are. But yeah, I'm definitely intrigued to continue, and yeah, hopefully it is as good as everyone claims it to be. But yeah, a solid like 6.5 out of 10 for this first volume. And a story that I also really enjoyed this month, or in November, was Love of Kill. And this one a lot of people have talked about, and it is a josei action drama story about Chateau. She's a bounty hunter, and Rangha, who's a professional hitman, and he kind of begins pestering Chateau by brokering her information about people she is tracking in exchange for a date. So I kind of like the premise already. I like that dynamic already. And Rangha seems to be very persistent in trying to get to know her, and their two worlds pretty much become intertwined due to his perseverance in trying to get closer to her. And I really enjoyed the first volume pretty much instantly. It was super compelling. Like, the action is very action heavy. Like, everything's constantly happening and something new is arising, and I really like Rangha's like facial expressions. And I also really like, I've already talked about this, but I really like the side character, the Indian guy. He's really cool. But yeah, she's pretty stoic, and she doesn't really give Rangha much attention, but due to him kind of giving her lots of information about these people that she's trying to track down, she kind of can't ignore him. So yeah, the cliffhanger at the end definitely made me want to continue this further, And volume 2 actually took really long to arrive, and it recently arrived and has been unboxed. So I'm hoping to binge read this series over Christmas break. And I think the new volume of this is coming out at the end of December as well. I think it's volume 10. So super excited to read this series. But yeah, solid 8 out of 10 for this volume. And another fantasy like series I read was The King's Beast. So I think I've talked about this as well in my recent Black Friday haul, but The King's Beast is by Ray Terma, which is one of the mangakas who did Dawn of the Arcana and also Water Dragon's Bride, which I didn't really enjoy, and Dawn of the Arcana I couldn't really get into either, but that is set in the same world as Dawn of the Arcana, which is about these Arjun who have special abilities and kind of take on beast-like attributes, like, you know, these ears and stuff. They are pretty much forced into a life of servitude by humans, where Arjun boys kind of have to serve in the military and Arjun women are pretty much placed in brothels, which is a really sad fate for this race. And our main character, Rangetsu, she is a girl but disguises herself as a boy to serve in the military and infiltrate the imperial palace to get revenge against her twin brother Sogetsu after finding out that he was killed during his servitude as Prince Tenyu's beast servant, which is this character. In an unexpected turn of events, he kind of finds out that Prince Tenyu, who he thought was the killer of his brother, actually is a lot more different than he imagined. And yeah, so the core drama and mystery in this is very intriguing and definitely thickens as the series continues. I think I mentioned before that I initially wasn't super impressed by this story, and when I read the first 2 volumes, but I kept constantly hearing about really good things, so I gave it another chance, and I actually really enjoyed myself the second time I read it. And as I got further into the story, so volumes 3, 4, and 5, it definitely got better, and I definitely became invested in this story. And yeah, I look forward to continuing the story as it unfolds. I pretty much picked up all of these volumes that were out in the Black Friday haul that I posted, I think last week. So yeah, Ray Terma's art style is very stunning as well, so I'm definitely enjoying it for the art style. And the story has been, really intriguing. I do really like court palace intrigue and court palace drama, especially the ones that I used to watch, the K-dramas. So yeah, I'm excited to continue this series and see how it develops. Definitely enjoying this more than the Water Dragon's Bride, which is one of the other mangaka's work, so I would recommend this instead of reading that one. Yeah, solid 7.5 out of 10. And then a seinen series that I picked up, which you guys have probably seen in the hauls, but it is Bungo Stray Dogs. I read volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4 in November, and I pretty much talked about this a lot, but I recently really wanted to get into this fandom, and so I started picking up the volumes. And I have been really enjoying it, actually. It follows the members of the armed detective agency and their constant battle with the port mafia. One of the main characters, Atsushi, joins the crew due to some circumstances, and he possesses quite powerful supernatural abilities that the port mafia are pretty much after, and so he kind of becomes a hit target for these people. And yeah, there is kind of a constant push and pull between the two antagonizing parties, and it follows that story. I think the story goes a lot deeper than that, but it's definitely a little hard to grasp initially, so I would say give it a shot. It can get a little bit confusing at times, so I have read a little bit of the backstories, but people do recommend watching the anime as you go along because it kind of explains it a little bit more easily. But yeah, I am enjoying this, and I really am enjoying the characters and the art style as well. And also, despite their antagonizing behavior, I am actually super keen to learn more about the pulp mafia characters, as well as backstories of multiple characters in this story. So I'm really intrigued to find out about the backstory of Dazai. So this guy, he is a little bit strange. There is some trigger warnings for talks of suicide in this series, where it is taken quite lightly, and it's a little bit jokey because this character is based on Osamu Dazai, who was I think he was a writer that tried to commit suicide quite a few times. So he's based on that character, but yeah, it does take it a little bit lightly and in a joking manner, so I would be warned of that. But I also really like this character, Kyoka. She's really cute. Really enjoying this series, and I'm hoping to continue it when I have more time, when I get off for Christmas, because work has been super busy, so I haven't been reading at all in December, but that's why I read a lot in November. So yeah, keen to continue this. So Bungo Stray Dogs is around a 7 out of 10 for me at the moment. I'm hoping as the story develops, I will enjoy it a lot more. And I have a reread of probably one of my favorite childhood stories, and one of the first manga that I started collecting and reading, which is Kodocha by Miho Obana. And you can see like how scuffed these volumes are getting. Like, this has survived about 2 or 3 international moves, because I bought this like 20 years ago in Kinokuniya when I was living in Australia, and obviously now I'm in England, so I've moved quite a few times already, and I've had a lot of regional moves, so this has been with me for over 20 years, and it's obviously super scuffed now. But Kodocha is about this character, Sana Kurata, who is a child actress, and she kind of goes up against this bully, Akito Hayama, and he and his crew are tormenting her class. They're like in elementary school, and he's also like blackmailing his teachers to get away with everything that he does. And the story kind of unfolds there, where she tries to go against him, and he eventually does calm down because Sana ends up blackmailing him about something else as well. And Sana actually realizes that Akito has a pretty sad backstory, and the reason behind his antics is a lot sadder than she imagined. So they start to get closer and start supporting each other through a lot of different events that unfold throughout the story. And I think this is a must read for any manga fan, because it's a really good coming of age comedy series, and it does have a dash of romance, and it is super fun, and I think it's just perfect. Like, there's a lot to be learned in this series, in my opinion, about growing and about first love and, you know, emotions, and whether your feelings when you're a kid matter, and also family dynamics. And yeah, it's just really good. It has a lot of things that I love, and I think it's just, there's a lot of deep emotions in this, considering it seems like a child story, and there's a lot of strong friendships in here that just make the series so enjoyable. And the main characters and even the side characters are also really likable, and the development is super great. This series is super hard to find now because it is out of print. Obviously it's Tokyo Pop, and these were serialized like 20 plus years ago, so it is hard to find. But if you ever get a chance to read this, I would highly recommend it for sure. I think I've reread this like at least 5 or 6 times during my childhood, and I am doing a reread of it now. So yeah, and I think it still holds up really well. But yeah, 9 out of 10 for this one. It is definitely a beloved series of mine. And a series I started and finished was Beasts of Abigaile by Speaker Aoki, and this is a 4-volume series by this mangaka who also did Kaiju Girl Caramelized, which is currently serializing still. And this one is really cute. It is about Nina, this girl who arrives in her new home in a place called Ruberia, and she ends up trying to stop a fugitive that's on the run, and is this guy basically, and he ends up biting Nina, and Nina ends up turning into one of the beasts of the legends. That's why she has these ears and becomes basically one of these characters. And beasts of legends are kept in a place called Abigaile, and they are pretty much imprisoned in there, and humans actually lock up these people in order to train them and kind of keep them under the order of humans, because they have a lot more like powerful abilities, so obviously they want to keep them under control. And yeah, she kind of ends up befriending a crew as well as working to find a way out of Abigaile, and also learning more about these beasts and how this race is basically trapped in this prison like academy, and she is working to find some ways in which she can set them free. And I feel like the story definitely suffered from being too short. Like, there was a lot of potential and character development that could have been done if it was longer. However, the mangaka did write in her notes that she was pretty much rushed to wrap up the story, which I find kind of sad, because I feel like there was a lot more that could be told in this story. And I also found that the typical mean boy, this guy, he's like the typical guy that's misunderstood, and he's mean, and it's because he has like a really sad backstory. That's why he's being mean. And he does things to Nina without her consent, which I didn't like at all. But then he ends up being one of the main love interests, which also I found a bit icky. So yeah, that was a little bit annoying. And there's also this like one female character in here that is just evil. Like, she's so mean, and there's another female character in there that is also kind of brainwashed. So there's not very any good female characters in here, except this character, Dario. He or she, I think they call her queen, so I think they're regarded as a she, but she's really cool. I really like them and their crew. But other than that, like, the female characters in here were a little bit not nice, to say the least. Like, yeah, I was not impressed with the female characters in here. They were all either like crazy or mean to Nina. And I feel like there was also quite a few loose threads as well at the end that didn't get resolved and ended up being unanswered. Like, what happened to this character? Like, we don't know. What happened to this character? We don't know. And we only know what happens to these two, and it kind of like he appears, like, yeah. Anyways, I felt like it did feel a little flat overall, and the kind of point at which everything was leading up to this like huge conclusion, yeah, it just didn't feel as dramatic and as well resolved as I would have liked. But as usual, Speaker Aoki's artwork is like absolutely stunning. Like, she has super nice artwork, super cute character designs. Like, let me find. Super pretty. She definitely draws her characters really well. Yeah. Yeah, I say the story is around a 6 out of 10. Definitely the art style is nice. I do hope that Kaiju Girl Caramelize ends on a better note and is not so rushed, considering it is already a 7-volume series, so I have high hopes for that one. And yeah, I definitely would recommend this for the art though, for sure. And the last physical read I have here is I'll How to Ride, and I don't have the whole series here because I didn't want to bring the whole stack, so I just bought the first 5 volumes, but I do own the whole series now. But I read the whole series of I'll How to Ride in November, so 1 to 13 I think, with a bunch of people in a Discord, and it was really super fun. I had read this series initially up to volume 7 as I was following it as it was printing in English, but I never managed to continue because I kind of fell off reading manga and collecting manga, so I never continued that. And I have started to reread this series again due to the buddy read, and I really enjoyed myself and honestly forgot how much I enjoyed Ayo Sakisaka's work. Obviously, this is set in a high school story, kind of about first loves and trying to fit in, as well as dealing with grief, loneliness, and unrequited love. It follows Futaba, this girl, and Ko, this guy, who meet in middle school and then they get separated due to some family events that happen to this guy, and they meet once again in high school, and their dynamic continues from pretty much where they left off, but Ko is pretty much very different to what he was like in middle school, which was really sweet, kind, and innocent, but now he seems a little bit more distant and there is more backstory to him that we find out later on. I know a lot of people find this particular series a little bit stretched out, a little bit convoluted, with a lot of back and forth and unnecessary drama, and a lot of obstacles occur that prevents these two from getting together. And yeah, I can understand that there is a lot of drama. It's a little bit frustrating as well because you're like, oh, they're finally gonna get together, and then something comes up and stops them from getting together, which is, yeah, a little bit annoying. But I definitely fell for the characters, and I thought the love story was super pure, and Ayo Sakisaka's artwork is stunning, of course. Like, she draws her characters really nicely, and really, they just look really fluffy and pure, and I really like that. But yeah, I really like this love story, and I felt it was really pure, and it gave me butterflies in some moments, and yeah, I did like it. I'm glad that I reread this and gave it another shot. I really enjoyed it, honestly, and I would say Ayo Sakisaka's work is a classic example of like heartwarming and touching high school shoujo romance. So if you're in the mood for something like that, I would definitely recommend this. I did buy her other series, Love Me, Love Me Not, that's also printed in Shoujo Beat recently in its entirety. So I am excited to try that series and see if I like that better, because I know a lot of people have enjoyed that one a little bit more than this one. But yeah, excited to reread this again one day. And I actually had second lead syndrome pretty much the whole time. I was like, I want you to get with this guy. Yeah, so it was a little bit heartbreaking for me because the second lead syndrome life. Yep, who can relate? But yeah, that was pretty much everything I read physically. I did read a few series digitally. I think it was 2 series, but one series I read was Nina the Starry Bride, and this is actually really exciting because I think Nina the Starry Bride is getting a print release in English, because it already is digitally licensed by Kodansha on their website, but it didn't ever get a physical release, and now it is getting one. They announced it, so I'm super pumped, and will definitely be picking up the volumes when they come out because I really enjoyed this story. And it is basically about an orphan, Nina, who kind of gets sold into slavery by her own brother, and it's mainly due to the rarity of her eye color, which is like lapis lazuli type color. She meets the Prince Azil, who has come to make Nina into a replacement to cover up the death of the princess priestess, which is a very important role in their society. So she starts to kind of lead this double life as the new priestess princess, and she ends up getting closer obviously to Prince Azil along the way, and it's just a really sweet story. And it has a lot of like political intrigue as well as a little bit of romance blossoming. And I feel like the story really surprised me. I did think Nina was a little bratty at first and was a little bit of a crybaby as well. However, as the story progresses, she learns to find her footing and becomes a really strong heroine for the story. There is also another male lead introduced in the story called Set, who she has kind of been promised to be married off to kind of secure these two kingdoms. However, things obviously definitely don't go as planned, and there is a lot of fun things that happen in the story, and I'm super interested to see what happens. And in terms of the love dynamic, I am definitely rooting for Prince Azure. So for everyone who has read Nina the Starry Bride, I'd love to know which side of the triangle you guys are rooting for. Are you rooting for Set, or are you rooting for Prince Azure? Because I think Azure is he's the one for me, in my opinion, for him to get together with Nina for sure. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I would give it a 7 out of 10, and super excited for the physical release so that I can pick it up. The next digital read I read was the entirety of Mars 1 to 15. So I literally read all 15 volumes of Mars in a matter of 2 days, and it is definitely drama heavy. Like, it's like soap opera type drama. So like, you know, when constantly bad things are happening, or drama, like it's pretty much drama non-stop. This is a high school romance story set in the 90s about Kira and Ray, who kind of meet one day when Ray asks Kira for directions, and she doesn't really speak to men or people that much because she kind of has something going in the background, and she just draws him a map, doesn't speak a word, and gives him the map to where he needs to go. And Ray discovers that there's actually a drawing on the back of where she drew that she was drawing at the time, and starts to kind of take an interest in her. And Ray and Kira start to form a bond and a special relationship with each other, as Ray feels like he really wants to protect Kira, and then Kira wants to use Ray as a body model because she finds his features really, you know, really good as like an artistic subject. So they kind of bond as they do these things, and they both have really like tough wounds from the past that do become obstacles in their relationship, which they do work to overcome together. And I found Mars like super compelling, considering I binge read 15 volumes in a matter of 2 days. You can definitely tell how much it compelled me to continue, and it was definitely drama heavy. Like, things constantly went wrong for these two, and they just kept throwing in like crazy characters into the picture to constantly threaten their relationship, as well as their past kind of unfolding that also ultimately affects their relationship in many ways. I did really enjoy reading this. However, it is definitely kind of a product of its time. There is a few elements in this that definitely wouldn't fly in today's media, such as the depiction of the only gay character, where he was pretty much a psycho, and there was a word used in the book that described the character's like sexuality, which I found like really bad. And also the females in this, other than the main lead, were absolutely like batshit crazy. Like, there is one female character that kind of does turn over a new leaf later, but initially she is super crazy, jealous, and super violent, and it doesn't really get addressed properly, in my opinion. She kind of just becomes good, and then she's forgiven, and that's about it. And there was also one scene where I thought Ray was really rough with Kira when she was dealing with something terrible, and I thought that was a little bit off-putting as well. And yeah, I think the way he handled it was not good, but I can definitely appreciate this manga for what it is, and I felt it definitely touched on elements about grief, loss, and finding your way in life. Quite progressive. There was a lot of heavy themes and topics that a lot of manga, you know, that then was not so much addressed, and I think this addressed it in an interesting way, as well as your passion in life as well. Like, I feel like Kira had a really amazing passion for art, which I thought was really good. She wasn't just, you know, a ragdoll following, you know, Ray around. She actually had things that she wanted to do and was passionate about. And also Ray was really passionate about like racing and stuff like that. So I thought it had elements that really created the characters well, so I did enjoy that. And yeah, I really enjoyed the journey I went through with these characters, and there was a lot of sadness and a lot of, you know, grief. But I would really love a reprint someday in like some sort of special editions like we're getting with Marmalade Boy. It'd be great if we got it from Mars. I feel like it's such a, you know, well-loved series and a well-known series, so I am surprised there isn't any mention of any reprints yet, but I hope one day we will get a reprint. So I gave this series a 7.5 out of 10. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up everything I read in November. I don't think I missed anything out, but if I miss something, I'll definitely insert clips here and there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I did read a lot this month, so sorry if I rambled on a lot, but there is timestamps down below where you can kind of skip around and see my opinion on those series that you're actually interested in. So yeah, check out the timestamps down below. So yeah, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate everyone who subscribed and have been liking and supporting my videos. It really means a lot to me, and I've only been posting videos for about 2 months now, so I feel like I'm really happy with how things are going and how my channel is growing as well, and I really just want to thank you guys for all of that. And I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts about some of these series. I'm not as eloquent as some other people on here, so I do struggle to make reading wrap-ups, but I'm trying my best. And if you enjoyed it, definitely let me know, and also comment down on what series you enjoyed this month, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on them as well. And if you read any of these as well, I'd love to know your opinions, even if it's opinions that are differing to mine. It's always great to see people enjoying mediums in different ways, so I appreciate it when someone doesn't enjoy a series that I really love, and if they love a series that I didn't really enjoy. I'm open to hearing all these differing opinions. But yeah, as always, like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more of these videos upcoming. And I hope everyone has a lovely holiday, winter, Christmas break, whatever you celebrate at this time. I hope everyone has a restful time. And yeah, I don't know if this video is the last one I'll have this year, but hopefully if I can get some more out, I will. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next year if not. Bye!